My best friend, 22-year-old female, and I, 24-year-old female, went out to a rave over the weekend. To get to the point, we both had fun at the beginning. However, as the crowd kept getting bigger, it started to get hot and crowded, and we began to feel a little overwhelmed. Let's call her Becky. Becky received a Snapchat from a friend of hers who told her that he saw on the maps that she's in town, she's from out of town, and wanted to pick her up. She asked if I could come along, and he said yes. He also mentioned that there was an after party at his place. I asked Becky if he's trustworthy, and she said yes. I thought that if my best friend, whom I trust, can trust this guy, then he should be a decent person. So I decided to trust him as well. Boy, was I wrong about both of them. I agreed to go to the after party on the promise of a free ride home. An Uber would have cost $90 and McDonald's. He picked us up with two other guys. One of them got out from the passenger seat, and Becky took his place. Now I was squished in between two men who didn't seem to understand when I said, "I have a boyfriend, leave me alone." They made multiple comments with the same tone of, "He's not here, he won't know," or ignored me and tried to touch me multiple times. I started pulling out my phone, talking about the trip my boyfriend and I took to a tropical island for a month. While showing them pictures, I expressed how much I love my boyfriend and emphasized that I am very loyal and in love. It seemed to have gotten the point across, as they started being friendly after that, thank goodness. During the time they were talking to me, I wasn't paying attention to Becky and her friend. Let's call him Dan. I have no idea how old he is, but I would guess a few years older than me, maybe 28. They were talking the whole time. We pulled up to a liquor store, and when we went inside, they were able to properly greet each other, unlike before when we had to jump in their car. As I was choosing my drink for the night, I noticed them hugging, and it looked and sounded like they kissed. I tried to brush it off, thinking maybe I was mistaken, since I had never considered the idea of Becky being unfaithful. It turns out it can be someone you least expect. We got our stuff, and Becky wanted a smoke. So we went back to the car. It was just her and me, and she proceeded to tell me, "Dan is so crazy, he just made out with me at the liquor store." I was shocked, and with my jaw dropped, I said, "Becky, what?" She laughed, and I was still in disbelief, saying, "That's not okay." She responded with something along the lines of, "Yeah, I know, he's just crazy." She knew that Becky had been in a relationship with her boyfriend for 7 years. That was the moment I realized that my job for the night was to be an undercover agent for her boyfriend. Fast forward to when we reached his apartment. Becky and Dan were lounging on the couch, all cozy as if they were fully dating. His arms were wrapped around her, and they sat down so naturally as if it wasn't their first time. I sat right next to her the whole time, talking to everyone around us. All guys, by the way. I was being more loud and obnoxious about how amazing both of our boyfriends are, talking about all the things we do together, including camping, and mainly emphasizing how wonderful my boyfriend is, to make it clear that I'm not like my friend and that they shouldn't expect me to be a cheater. Becky was making it a little hard to show that we, or at least I, have morals. Fast forward to the car ride home. Until then, they had been touching each other flirtatiously, with Becky acting like, "Oh my God, no, stop, oh no, don't, ha," while touching him and flipping her hair. In the car, she reaches over and grabs his hand, so now they are holding hands. I took a picture, for evidence, you know? Becky holds his hand with the same hand that has all her promise rings from her boyfriend, which are worth $3,000. Seriously, any morals? I'm furious in the back seat. But I also want McDonald's and a ride home, so I just sit there, glaring out the window, trying to stay calm until we get to my house. Finally, we arrive, and both of them suggest that we chill together for a while. That's when I explode because I've been holding it in. I say, "I am not staying and chilling with no one, and you should be thinking about your freaking boyfriend, Becky." And I yell her boyfriend's name. I get out of the car and slam the door shut. She returns almost 2 hours later. To me, that's suspicious as hell, especially after I told her to think of her boyfriend. She still didn't come to her senses and immediately leave that car, thinking, "Holy frick, she's right." She also wasn't responding to my texts. The next morning, I express how angry everything made me and how unfair it is to her boyfriend. I also mention that I feel like I've been dragged into this to hold a dirty secret, which I refuse to do. Becky laughs it off and disregards it as a joke. That was another red flag for me. I thought, dude, aren't you at least feeling guilty or sorry? Laughing about it only makes it worse. Her boyfriend is truly a good guy. On Valentine's Day, she came home to a giant teddy bear with flowers. He's also a good friend to both me and my boyfriend. However, he is the perfect victim in this situation since he has no social media, and none of us have his phone number, as we always do the planning through Becky. What should I do? They also live out of town. I'm not certain if anything happened during that 2-hour window when I went home, but for me personally, holding hands, and especially kissing, is considered cheating. I don't want to lose her as a friend, even though we've been friends for over 10 years. However, I don't want a friend who lacks emotional maturity and morals. If she's selfish now, what's to stop her from being selfish to me or anyone else in the future? Nonetheless, I care about the friendship between me, my boyfriend, and her boyfriend. As I mentioned before, he's a great friend, not only to me, but to my boyfriend. That's also partly why I want him to know, because he deserves better, and I can't stand cheaters. I'm worried that he won't believe me, which is why I took a picture, but I do think he deserves to know, and it's his decision to do whatever he pleases with that information. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Talk to your boyfriend about this. Get on the same page, and then invite her boyfriend out for a drink alone with you and your boyfriend. Sit him down and tell him everything. They definitely did something in those 2 hours. Comment 2. Yes, you absolutely tell him. He deserves to know. You don't want friends that don't have morals. Maybe rethink the friendship or take a step back for a bit if you need some space. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for all the support on my last post. I never thought I'd be back so soon with an update, but here we are. Things have gotten even more complicated, and I'm still reeling from the events of the past few days. After the whole car ride home debacle, I thought things couldn't get worse. I was wrong. The next day, Becky acted like nothing happened. She was all smiles and giggles, talking about how much fun she had. I couldn't believe it. I was still fuming inside, but I didn't want to start a fight. I decided to give her some space to see if she'd come to her senses on her own. But then, the surprise dropped. Becky's boyfriend, let's call him Mike, showed up unexpectedly. He had decided to surprise her with a visit. I was at their place when he arrived, and the look on Becky's face was pure panic. She pulled me aside and begged me not to say anything. I felt trapped between my loyalty to my friend and doing the right thing. Mike was his usual sweet self, bringing gifts and talking about plans for their future. It was heartbreaking to watch, knowing what Becky had done. I couldn't take it anymore. I excused myself, saying I had to go home, but really, I just needed to get away from the lies. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Mike and how he deserved to know the truth. I remembered the promise rings he had given Becky, the ones she wore while holding hands with Dan. It made my blood boil. I decided I had to tell Mike, but I was scared of losing my friendship with Becky. The next day, I went over to their place again. Mike was there, and Becky was all over him, acting like the perfect girlfriend. It was sickening. I pulled Mike aside and showed him the picture I had taken in the car. His face went white as he looked at it. He didn't say anything for a long time, just stared at the picture. Then he looked at me, his eyes filled with hurt, and asked if it was true. I nodded, and that's when he broke down. Mike left without saying another word to Becky. She was furious with me for telling him. She said I had ruined her life and that I was a terrible friend. I tried to explain that I did it because I cared about both of them, but she wouldn't listen. She said I had betrayed her trust and that our friendship was over. I went home feeling like I had been punched in the gut. I had lost my best friend of over 10 years, but I knew I had done the right thing. Mike texted me later, thanking me for being honest with him. He said he was going to take some time to think about what he wanted to do. As for Becky, she's been posting on social media like nothing happened. She's out partying with Dan and acting like she's single. It's like she's a completely different person, and I don't even recognize her anymore. I'm still trying to process everything that's happened. It's been a whirlwind of emotions, and I'm not sure where to go from here. I miss my friend, but I also feel relieved that I'm no longer keeping her secret. It's a strange feeling, and I'm just taking it one day at a time. Best friend sabotages my relationships out of jealousy. So I block him, but he won't stop, and BF reveals he knew all along, which leads to a showdown at work and a new beginning with true allies. So I am a 26-year-old female and have had a best friend who is a 32-year-old male for 6 years. We have been very good friends, helping each other emotionally as well as spiritually, and have always come to each other for advice concerning anything, even relationships. We've both had more or less the same stories and traumas in life, so we relate to each other in the sense that we know what's actually going on. We've been through some bad phases together, helped each other a lot, tried to get better, and watched our evolution. He's such a genius in work and professional settings, but a big mess in relationships with people that I always need to hear about his misfortunes with women or friends and give him suggestions if appropriate. Of course, 3 years ago I met my boyfriend who is 27 years old, and he's the best person I know. This guy completes me, makes me laugh all the time, and he has helped me out tremendously when we had just met. I had a lot of unresolved issues to solve from my childhood. He has been so patient and has watched me bloom into this beautiful person I have become today. Very proud of myself. He's overall very supportive and nice, and I love him so much. The thing is, as the title suggests, my best friend is now aggressively approaching me for marriage. He's trying to sell me the idea so bad, the same way he has done with the ladies who refused him countless times. To him, marriage is like a business venture. He logically weighed all the pros and cons in front of me, literally tried to gain my empathy by reminding me of all the good things he has done for me and what will happen to him if I don't accept. I have told him that for years we have agreed that we are very bad for each other in terms of relationships because we have the same scars, but he insists that this is what is going to make us the best couple in the universe. Then he started analyzing my personality and mindlessly telling me of some bad traits I have, which I have worked on already, and it makes me feel sad to hear. It goes in the lines of, "I can't count on you in this because you're like that," etc. When I tell him I am in a relationship with someone that I love, he tells me that indeed I am with a good guy, but my current boyfriend is not serious with me, and he'll eventually break up because we are not meant to be. So he gives me permission to have intimacy with my current boyfriend for the time being. Excuse me? So yeah, you can see that he's delusional and apparently won't leave me alone unless I cut the relationship, or he magically learns what a normal relationship is supposed to be. I also don't have many friends to ask for such advice, so what would you suggest I do to get myself out of this? In case you have asked, I did tell him no, and that this is a bad idea, etc., but he won't just hear it. Edit. Thanks for all your comments, concerns, and advice. I spoke to him, and since he was still on the same narrative with his monologue, I blocked him, and he won't come near me ever. The other thing is, yes, my boyfriend does know, but he is traveling, and I have the right to talk to my best friend about their stupid suggestion before I decide to block them, because I'm a human, and I thought I could change his mind. The third thing, how did I end up with a friend like that? Well, when we had met, I was 19 in a new city, all alone, and he was the only person to genuinely help me for the time I've lived there. So I have done the same. It's called empathy, in case you didn't know. And he has been kind to me when I've known him, and he's a real genius when it comes to work, so he did help me a lot in that aspect, and I don't forget people's kindness. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. You need to cut him off. I don't think he's your friend anymore. Also, if you haven't told your boyfriend what happened, in case he tries to spin it a different way to him. I know you don't want to end a friendship that's meant a lot to you, but if your boyfriend had a long-term female friend who started saying he should stop being with you so he could marry her, wouldn't you want him to cut her off? Comment 2. He's really crossing into the space of probably not being as much of a friend as you think. The permission to have intimacy piece is super toxic and suggests he doesn't view you in a particularly valuable light. It does sound like a relationship to consign to the past. You wouldn't, I assume, invite him to your wedding at this stage. Probably says enough. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for all the comments and advice on my last post. It's been a rough few days, and I've got some updates that I think you'll find pretty shocking. So, after I blocked my best friend, I thought that would be the end of it. But boy was I wrong. He started sending me emails from different accounts, each one more desperate than the last. He even went as far as to say that he had a dream where we were married, and it was a sign we were meant to be together. I couldn't believe the lengths he was going to. Now let's rewind a bit. Remember how I mentioned my boyfriend was traveling? Well, he came back early, and I was so relieved to have him home. I needed his support more than ever. But when I told him about the emails, he didn't react the way I expected. He was calm, too calm. It turns out he had known my best friend for longer than I realized. They had crossed paths in the past, and my boyfriend had always been wary of him. He told me stories of how my best friend would manipulate situations to his advantage, and it all started to make sense. The heartbreak came when my boyfriend confessed that he had kept this from me because he didn't want to influence my friendships. He thought I needed to see my best friend's true colors on my own. I felt betrayed. How could he not tell me? But at the same time, I understood his intentions. It was a tough pill to swallow. As if that wasn't enough, my best friend showed up at my work. He had figured out my schedule and waited for me to go on break. When I saw him, my heart sank. He started apologizing, saying he realized how wrong he was. But then, he dropped a bombshell. He confessed that he had been sabotaging my past relationships because he couldn't stand the thought of me with anyone else. I was floored. All those times things went wrong, and I had no idea he was behind it. I confronted him right there, in front of everyone. I told him how much he had hurt me, how he had betrayed our friendship. He tried to explain, but I wasn't having it. I told him to leave me alone for good. It was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do, but it was necessary. Now, let's talk about my boyfriend. After everything that happened, we had a long talk. He apologized for not being upfront with me, and I forgave him. We both agreed that we needed to be more open with each other. It was a rough patch, but it brought us closer together. In the midst of all this, I started reflecting on my past with my best friend. We had been through so much together, and it was hard to let go. But I realized that the person I thought I knew was just a facade. He had always been there for me, but for the wrong reasons. It was a tough lesson to learn. The past few days have been a joyride of emotions. I've been trying to process the betrayal from someone I considered my closest friend. It's been hard, but I'm getting through it with the support of my boyfriend and the few friends I have. I've learned that sometimes the people we trust the most can be the ones who hurt us the deepest. It's a harsh reality, but it's better to know the truth. I'm moving forward, and I'm hopeful for the future. My BF says he doesn't need my permission to party without a ring, but when I find out he's cheating, I plan my next move for me and our baby without him. My boyfriend of 1 year told me he wouldn't give me a ring, and I'm the one who wants to tie him down. It started when he sent me an Instagram direct message of an event happening at a club. He sent it with the caption saying, "I don't care, I'm going." To which I jokingly replied, "With whose permission?" He then said that as long as he doesn't have a ring, there is no need for him to ask for permission. I sent him a meme basically saying to enjoy his time as a free man because when he's my husband, he won't be going out anymore. And I told him that he should be the one giving the ring, not me. That is when he told me that he doesn't give rings, and I'm the one trying to tie him down. I was just joking about him having to ask for permission. He's never had to. I have even encouraged him to go out while I stay in. I just said that to him because we both know I wouldn't be able to go with him as I am 4 months pregnant with his baby. It's an unexpected pregnancy, but definitely wanted. I told him when we found out I was pregnant that he didn't have to stay with me, that he was under no obligation to take care of me. I just expected him to take care of his child. He said that he loved me and would do everything he could to provide for our family. We've talked many times about letting each other know when either of us no longer wanted to be together. So in no way have I tied him down. He knows all he has to do is talk to me. This would continue to be true even if we got married. I'm hurt. He would even say that I'm wanting to tie him down. It makes me feel stupid for believing his words of us being a family and him wanting this child. Like I'm forcing him into something he doesn't want. I don't expect to get married now, but eventually it's something I want to do. I'm torn because now I'm thinking I'm going to waste my time waiting for something that will never come. I've been looking forward to spending the rest of my life with this man, but it feels now like I'm forcing him to be with me. I know marriage isn't the end-all be-all. I know that, but still, it's something I was looking forward to with him. How should I move forward with this information? What would you guys do? Edit. I would appreciate it if you guys stopped commenting things like, "Why would I bring a child into this world?" That is not what this post was about. While yes, it complicates things, I'm having this baby because it is mine to have. I have never thought of not having my baby. Like I said, when we found out about my pregnancy, I gave him the option of leaving and not staying for the baby. Now we currently don't live together, but we are looking at places to move into before the baby comes. Hence why I have been looking forward to living my life with him. He doesn't go clubbing often, especially now that I'm pregnant. He wants to go to an event at a club for 420 where there will be a lot of smoking, so I can't go, don't want to go. He can go if he wants to, unless there is an emergency or I need him to be around. For context, we're both Mexican, and there's a lot of memes and content about Latinos being toxic, so we play into those stereotypes and jokes sometimes. We both know they are jokes. My real problem is him saying I'm trying to tie him down, even if he said it as a joke. It was hurtful. Like I said, I know marriage isn't the end-all be-all. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. This is what happens when you try to be the cool girlfriend. He knocked you up, and you gave him no obligations to you even though you're his pregnant girlfriend. You made it clear that you'd do something as major as giving birth to his child without any reciprocation. What was the point of all those you're free to go conversations if this is the man you want to marry? You continuously made yourself an option to keep at an arm's length instead of a priority. You devalued yourself. Comment 2. You've been together for a year, you're 4 months pregnant, and he behaves like this? He's the last person you want to be married to, let alone father your child. You say the child is much wanted, but it won't be by him. He's still acting like an 18-year-old. A ring on your finger is the least of your problems. Now for the update. Hey everyone, a lot has happened since my last post, and I'm still reeling from the events of the past 3 days. I thought things were complicated before, but they've taken a turn I never expected. After our conversation about the ring and him going to the club, things got pretty tense between us. We've always been the couple that could laugh off the memes and jokes about being tied down, but his words kept echoing in my head. I couldn't shake off the feeling that maybe he was serious. 2 days ago, he went to the club event he told me about. I stayed home, trying to rest and take care of myself and our baby. But as the night went on, I couldn't help but feel anxious. I texted him a couple of times, but he didn't respond. It wasn't like him to ignore me, especially now that I'm pregnant. The next morning, I woke up to a message from an old friend, Aita. She and I had drifted apart over the years, but she reached out with something she thought I should know. She sent me a photo from the club event. It was my boyfriend, looking cozy with another girl. My heart sank. I trusted him, and he knew how important loyalty was to me, especially with our history. You see, before we started dating, he had a reputation for being a bit of a player, but when we got together, he told me he was done with that life. He wanted to be with me, and I believed him. We had been through so much together, supporting each other through family issues and personal struggles. I thought we had built something real. I confronted him about the photo when he finally came home. At first, he tried to brush it off, saying it was nothing, just an old friend from high school he ran into. But I could tell he was lying. The look in his eyes wasn't the same as when he promised to be there for me and our baby. The betrayal hit me hard. I remembered all the times he had reassured me about our future, how he'd be a good father and partner. It all felt like a cruel joke now. I thought about our plans to move in together, how excited I was to build a life with him, and it all crumbled in an instant. But the real shock came later that day. I was at my mom's house, trying to process everything, when I got a call from my cousin, Luis. He had heard about the club incident and wanted to check on me. As we talked, he hesitantly mentioned something that made my blood run cold. He had seen my boyfriend a few weeks back, at a time when he told me he was working late. He was with the same girl from the club photo. I felt like I was in a nightmare. The man I loved, the father of my child, had been lying to me for who knows how long. I confronted him again, this time with the new information. He finally broke down and admitted that he had been seeing this girl for a few months. He said he didn't know how to tell me, that he was scared of losing me and our baby. I was furious. How could he be scared of losing us when he was the one stepping out? All the trust we built, all the promises he made, they meant nothing. I thought about the times he'd come home late, the excuses he made, and it all made sense now. We had a huge fight. I told him that if he wanted to be free, he didn't need to sneak around. He could have just talked to me, like we always said we would if things weren't working out. But he chose to betray me instead. Now I'm left picking up the pieces. I'm trying to figure out what to do next, not just for me, but for our baby. I still can't believe this is happening. I thought I knew him, but these past few days have shown me a side of him I never knew existed. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.